Tonight, we step into the life of Miyamoto Musashi, the greatest swordsman Japan ever produced, a man who never lost a duel, who wandered the wilderness with nothing but 2 swords and a will of iron, and who, in the end, retreated to a cave to write a book that still whispers to warriors, philosophers, and dreamers across the centuries. But this is not a story of glory shouted from rooftops. It is a story of dust on sandals, of cold nights under trees, of a boy who killed a grown samurai at 13 and then spent the rest of his life trying to understand what that meant. Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to walk a road where no one is your equal, where every victory leaves you more alone, and where the only enemy left is yourself? What would you do when the duels end and the silence begins? Tonight, we walk that road beside him. If this quiet journey into the life of a legend calls to you, take a moment to subscribe to Little Historical. It helps a small channel continue to uncover the forgotten stories that deserve to be told softly, with time to breathe. And let me know in the comments where you are watching from and what time it is for you. Now dim the lights, perhaps a blanket, and let us begin. Your story begins in 1584, during what historians politely call a complicated time in Japan, and what you, if you could talk as a newborn, might have called an absolute mess. The Sengo period, or Warring States era, was less about polite tea ceremonies and more about who could backstab faster, march armies quicker, and build castles bigger. Basically, it was medieval Japan's version of an aggressive real estate market, only instead of losing a bidding war, you lost your life. You are born in a little village called Miyamoto, tucked in the rough hills of Harima province. Your family isn't exactly rolling in gold coins. No luxurious silk diapers for you. More likely, you were swaddled in scratchy peasant cloth and handed a wooden spoon to fend off cold breezes. Congratulations! Life hands you your first training weapon at birth. Your father, Shinmen Munisai, is a professional swordsman. And by professional, we mean he takes the art of slicing things very seriously. He's a tough man, a stern teacher, and not exactly the let's toss a ball around the yard type of dad. No, his idea of bonding time with his son would have been, here's a wooden sword, Musashi. Try not to cry when you fall over. Affection is rare, praise is rarer, and gentle hugs are pretty much non-existent. But in a brutal, unforgiving world, softness could get you killed. Your father wasn't raising a child. He was forging a weapon. From the very beginning, there is a wildness about you. You're not the tidy, well-behaved child who bows politely and memorizes verses. You're scrappy, unruly, and probably smelled like mud half the time. While other kids played tag, you were probably figuring out how to ambush them from behind a tree and declare victory. Subtle foreshadowing for your future career. In short, from the moment you blinked into the blinding Japanese sun, your fate was already whispering in your ear. You were not meant to live a quiet, peaceful life. You were meant to fight, to wander, and to carve your name into history, one duel at a time, preferably while looking slightly disheveled. And judging by the state of the country, you were about to get plenty of practice. Your playground isn't a grassy field or a cozy backyard. It's the hard-packed dirt of Miyamoto village, where the wind smells of smoke, steel, and a little too much horse. Forget lullabies and fairy tales. Your bedtime stories are about heroic samurai cleaving enemies in half with one swing. Your crib mobile. Probably a few rusty swords dangling precariously from the ceiling. From the moment you can walk, or rather stagger like a tiny drunk warrior, your father Munisai has you gripping practice swords. While other kids are learning to write simple kanji, you're learning how to parry a death blow. Call it an unconventional education. There's no participation trophy in your household. If you lose a sparring match, you don't get a cookie. You get a fresh bruise and a lecture on why hesitation equals death. Munisai is a hard man. Legend says he won official duels under the Ashikaga shogunate, but parenting wasn't exactly his strong suit. His love is sharp-edged, practical, and delivered with the subtlety of a cannon blast. Praise. Maybe once, when you didn't fall flat on your face after a heavy blow. Otherwise, silence. Because in his mind, survival is its own reward. And yet, something in you thrives under this pressure. While other boys dream of feasting and fame, you dream of battle rhythms, of predicting an opponent's next move before they make it. You don't see the sword as just a weapon. You see it as an extension of yourself, like an iron heartbeat echoing in your hands. You are not pampered. You are not comforted. Instead, you are honed day after brutal day, like a blade against wet stone. Even as a boy, you start to grasp the cold truth of your world. Victory is not about being stronger. It's about being smarter, faster, and just a little bit meaner than the guy across from you. The villagers whisper about you. That wild kid with the stare too sharp for his age. That boy who never cries when he bleeds. Some shake their heads. Some nod in respect. But one thing is clear. By the time you are barely a teenager, you are already something different. Not just a boy. Something far, far more dangerous is growing inside you. And soon, the world would see just how dangerous, when a traveling samurai made the mistake of underestimating a barefoot 13-year-old with a wooden sword. That duel would be your first taste of blood, and it would change everything. That duel would be your first taste of blood, and it would change everything. You'd think after your first public victory, life might settle down. Maybe a nice apprenticeship. Maybe a stable job carving sandals or fixing roofs. Something normal. Not a chance. At 15, you make a decision most adults wouldn't dare. You leave home. No tearful goodbyes. No packed lunch. Just a sword, a tattered travel cloak, and a stubborn refusal to live anybody's life but your own. You become a wanderer, a rōnin. In a world where status is everything, where being tied to a lord offers protection and purpose, you choose absolutely none of it. It's like showing up at a medieval job fair, flipping the table, and walking into the woods whistling. Why? Because deep down, you know, if you tie yourself to someone else's house, someone else's rules, you'll never become the warrior you're meant to be. You aren't here to play politics. You aren't here to shine armor and pour sake for some pudgy lord. You're here to master the sword on your terms, or not at all. Of course, wandering isn't exactly glamorous. You sleep under trees, not silk canopies. You eat whatever you can find, rice if you're lucky, bark if you're not. Your traveling companions, mostly crows, stray dogs, and the occasional curious peasant boy whispering, "Mama, why does that man look like he hasn't bathed in a year?" But you don't care. The wilderness becomes your dojo. The rivers sharpen your senses. The cold wind teaches you patience better than any old master. And with every mile you walk, you shed another piece of the boy you were. The village kid with muddy feet. Gone. The ambitious teenager who beat a samurai. Still there, but growing into something fiercer. You start seeking out dojos, challenging their best students to duels, learning from every swing, every miss, every victory. Your skills evolve fast, too fast for the world to keep ignoring you. People start whispering your name along dusty roads and smoky inns. There's a wild rōnin out there, a boy with a blade sharper than most men's minds. And somewhere on those endless roads, a new thought grows inside you. Maybe the sword isn't just for killing. Maybe it's a path to something bigger than survival. You just have to keep walking. If there's one thing that separates you from the other samurai of your time, it's this. You don't look the part at all. The typical samurai strides into town with his hair neatly oiled, his armor polished to a mirror shine, his swords tucked neatly at his hip like badges of honor. Meanwhile, you show up looking like you just wrestled a bear, and maybe won. Your hair wild. Your clothes torn, stained, sometimes half missing. Your feet muddy, definitely calloused. You are not the carefully curated image of the warrior elite. You are something rarer, something far more unsettling. You look less like a courtly samurai and more like a wild wolf that learned how to walk on two legs and somehow picked up a sword along the way. And people notice. They laugh at first. But once you draw your blade, that laughter turns to fear. Because you don't fight for style points. You fight to survive. And soon, you would reinvent sword fighting itself, wielding two blades where every other man used one. That revolution was just beginning. Somewhere between your 100th duel and your 1000th mosquito bite, a new name starts to reach your ears. Sasaki Kojirō. At first, it's just whispers in smoky inns and dusty crossroads. There's a man with a blade like a lightning strike. His sword is so long it could swat a bird from the sky. He's undefeated, just like you. Interesting. You're not the type to get rattled by reputation. After all, you are the reputation other warriors have nightmares about. But Sasaki Kojirō is different. He's not some arrogant dojo master waiting to be embarrassed. He's fast, deadly, precise, and he carries a sword so absurdly long, the *nadachi*, or drying pole, that you half wonder if he's compensating for something. You don't say it out loud. That would be rude. Kojirō's style, the swallow cut, is famous. It mimics the movement of a bird's wings. Quick, elegant, impossible to predict. He's not just good. He's a force of nature. A mirror of you, but polished, regal, almost civilized. And in a weird way, you're excited. Finally, a real challenge. Not another pompous blowhard to humiliate. Not another crowd of amateurs to outthink. Someone who might actually force you to reach deeper. Someone who might sharpen you in ways no duel ever has. Word eventually reaches you that Kojirō has been appointed as the fencing master for a lord. High honor, great pay, fresh clothes. You're still sleeping in barns, occasionally using your travel cloak as both blanket and breakfast napkin. But that doesn't matter, because you know paths like yours and Kojirō's are not meant to run parallel forever. They're meant to collide spectacularly. The challenge comes wrapped not in gold, but in quiet, serious words passed through wary messengers. Sasaki Kojirō has accepted. He will meet you on the battlefield. No politics, no lords, no armies. Just 2 men, 2 blades, and a promise hanging in the humid air. The duel is set for a tiny, rocky island in the Kanmon Straits, Ganryūjima. Remote enough for privacy, flat enough for a clean fight, dramatic enough that the gods themselves might pull up a chair to watch. You hear the details with the same calm you've carried for years. Where others would pace nervously, sharpening blades and writing tearful farewell letters, you barely shrug. Challenge accepted. But you prepare not the way your enemies would expect. You don't spend sleepless nights polishing armor. You don't compose elaborate death poems or fuss over ceremonial garb. You don't even bother getting a haircut. Instead, you sharpen your mind. You study Kojirō the way a hunter studies dangerous prey. You learn his timing, his technique, his habits. Fast, precise, deadly at mid-range. Good. Because you've already decided you're not going to fight Kojirō at his own game. That would be suicide. You're going to change the game entirely. You ask for a small boat to take you to the island on the day of the duel. And then you carve a wooden sword from a spare or during the ride. A crude bokken*, roughly the length of Kojirō's absurdly long blade. No polished steel, no gleaming armor. Just rough wood and sharp intent. As the island draws near, the wind in your hair and the salt on your skin, you feel it. The stillness before the storm. The coiling tension of 2 titans about to collide. And you smile just a little, because you're not here to survive. You're here to win. The boat bumps against the shore, and you step out to meet the only man who ever truly stood as your equal. What happened next would echo through history. A single strike, a falling legend, and a silence that followed you for the rest of your days. The boat bumps against the shore of Ganryūjima. You step out, cradling your makeshift wooden sword, a carved or rough and unpolished, still smelling faintly of river water and stubbornness. Across the beach, you see him. Sasaki Kojirō. Already waiting. Tall, lean, composed, dressed in elegant robes, carrying his famous *nadachi*, a sword so long it looks like it belongs on a ship's mast. He's polished, prepared, perfect. And you look like you wandered onto the beach by accident after a particularly spirited night in a tavern. The crowd murmurs. Some snicker. He's late. He's disrespectful. He's armed with a stick. Kojirō's lips tighten into a sneer. He's already angry, already off balance. Good. You intended it that way. He unsheathes his massive sword in one fluid, beautiful motion. The swallow cut, fast, precise, unbelievably deadly. But as he moves, something happens. He hesitates. Just for a blink. Thrown off by your ragged appearance, your audacity, the absurd sight of a man calmly advancing with a boat oar. And that's all you need. You surge forward, faster than a striking hawk. Your wooden sword whistles through the salty air. One single perfect blow. The crack of wood against skull echoes across the island. Kojirō collapses. Instant. Final. The mighty Sasaki Kojirō lies broken on the sand. Silence falls. Even the gulls seem stunned. You lower your oar, breathing steady, heart calm. Another duel, another victory. But something in the air feels different. Because today, you didn't just defeat a swordsman. You ended an era. You walk away without ceremony, leaving the body behind, leaving the stairs, the whispered legends already sprouting like weeds. As the boat carries you back to the mainland, you realize something. At a certain height, there are no more rivals. No equals. Just a lonely peak, and you standing there alone. Victory tastes like ash. The duels were never about fame. They were about the pursuit, the endless, painful, beautiful pursuit of something perfect. And now that pursuit feels hollow. So you keep walking, not toward glory, but toward something quieter. Eventually, you retreat to a cave called Reigando. You bring only a brush, ink, and your swords, but the swords gather dust. Inside the stone walls, you are no longer a warrior. You are a student of stillness. You write *, the Book of 5 Rings *, a guide not to killing, but to mastery. Earth, water, fire, wind, void. Each scroll a duel against ignorance. Your brush becomes your sword. And when your body finally slows, you sit upright, swords at your side, and greet death as you greeted every opponent. With calm, without fear. One final breath. Musashi dies as he lived, undefeated, unbroken, untamed. And somewhere in the silence between heartbeats, his spirit still whispers, walk the path. Face yourself. Become more.